this idea of like, how should we, as people who want other people to enjoy part two, but also know a lot of other people are already aware of what happens in part two, have a discussion and how open should we be? Because this is based on a musical that's been on for 20 years. But at the same time, you and I were trying to see a Broadway show when we were in New York last. And it is not easy because we were trying to get last minute tickets because we did not have the money because we were already in New York to like actually pay full money for tickets, because they're really expensive.
And that's the thing. We were both privileged enough to have been in New York and to have had the disposable income in theory to go see a show. We were just trying to be like budget conscious about it.
Yeah.
Because we had spent all that money to go. But the thing is, if you don't live in New York or London or even Toronto, which doesn't have a ton of like permanent theater, it doesn't have any permanent theater, but we do get all the big shows cycling in fairly often. But even then, like when things come to Toronto, they're not here very long and they're very expensive.
Yeah, it's same with Orlando,
anywhere,
and Tampa.
Anywhere that doesn't have permanent shows like London and New York does becomes very, very expensive. So then that becomes a barrier of entry.
Yes. So there is a great privilege when it comes to theater that I think a lot of people forget. But it is also based on a book that is over 30 years old, which that book is based on a series that is like 100 years old.
I think, so the big plot twists in part two, part two, are not in the book, really. So I don't think, so this is a tricky question. This isn't like as straightforward as it would be for like, I don't know, a movie adaptation of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Like the book is the movie, essentially.
Spoiler alert. Let's just, because I feel like we have
we're putting a spoiler alert at the top of this whole
episode. The same thing, yeah. Is Bach's and Fiero's fate a spoiler?
Yes, I would say it is.
So but it is a spoiler, but is it a twist, like you were saying?
I mean, you remember the first time you saw it, when I realized what Elphaba's curse, quote unquote, to help Fiero winds up doing to him, I was shocked. When Nessa curses Bach, I was shocked because you are familiar with the Wizard of Oz going in.
Yeah.
So to watch that connect is very surprising. So I would say that I would consider those spoilers because I think they exist in the stage show, but like we said, stage show is not particularly accessible and it's not accessible any other way.
In the book, doesn't Fiero turn into a scarecrow?
Fiero dies.
Yeah, but after.
No, he dies like before Elphaba even gives birth to their baby that she forgets about. The book is messed up. There's another reason I was so upset with the book because I liked Fiero and then Fiero just like dies in part one.
Fiero also was married to someone else. He doesn't even have a romance with Glinda.
Yeah, it's something else entirely. But Fiero doesn't turn into the scarecrow.
Does Bach turn into the Tin Man?
No, because Fiero and Bach and the lion cub that they save becoming the scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion is like a neat button for a stage show, which is like a really clever way.
Yeah.
But that's not at all what Gregory Maguire was going for.
Okay. Yeah, it has been a while. And also the whole book upset me because I was too young to read it.
It's also like, I know that, most adaptations will make a big change, but it's like something happening in Bridgerton, let's say, because I've got Jonathan Bailey on the brain, like a big plot point in the book happening on screen. Like that, I would say is a bit iffier in terms of spoiler because the book is fairly accessible. Do you know what I mean? But even then, like I would try to be careful about like Lady Whistledown's identity before we knew who that was, just in case. But this
also, is with Bridgerton is known, you're going to get a happily ever after.
Yeah. Plot twist within the narrative. But even then, like as I'm saying it, that's a bad example because they've changed so much. But
like, for instance, I saw Wicked with my parents because they're big musical fans. And I was very curious because they had no context to the musical. My mother loves The Wizard of Oz. My father is meh about it because he saw it when he came to America when he was in his 20s. And his American roommates like really hyped it up to the point where he was like, meh.
It's cute, but if it gets overhyped, like I can see it being.
Also, like it must have been interesting to see it as an adult versus a child, with all the magic and everything. But they didn't even notice that it was a lion cub that was like all like shaking and fearful that they saved. They noticed it was a lion, but they didn't piece it together that that could be the cowardly lion.
Because I don't think anybody is making those associations yet. That Bach is heartless, that Fiero's kind of a dumbass,
Yeah.
that this lion is like, nobody's making those. If they don't know to look for that, like maybe somebody is, but I don't think everybody is, and that's what makes the twist so shocking.
Jonathan Bailey wore an old school Scarecrow t-shirt to one of his like press junkets.
Jonathan Bailey with your chaos.
Jonathan Bailey, so rude.
You know what I'm going to treat this like? I'm going to treat it like we do when we had screeners for something.
Okay.
We've seen it. We know. So we're making those connections. We're just spoiling it here for everybody. But like, we have seen it. We know. But like, when I'm talking to people who haven't seen the musical, I'm only going to talk about part one.
Yeah.
And if they happen to see a spoiler removed from me and they want to talk about it, fine. But I will not be the one to present that information to them.
Yes. We're not going to talk spoilers out of context, is what we're going to say.